Okay, good morning, everyone. We are now on the last two classes of our 16th century dance exploration, and these last two classes actually do go together. So unlike the other ones that were, sort of self-contained and discrete in their subject matter, these last two are two parts of a completely new style of dance for our particular purposes of 16th century exploration. We are now going to explore the dances of Italy in the 16th century, specifically the latter half, because there's actually a couple of different sources, but we're going to be focusing on one particular source. It is called Il Ballerino, which means the dancer, and it's by a gentleman named Fabrizio Carosso. It was published in 1580, printed, and there's actually a complete facsimile of this work in the original Italian, of course, on the Library of Congress's website. If you aren't aware, brief note, the United States Library of Congress has an immense digital collection of manuscripts and old printed books, and you can literally just surf through them digitally. So it's a really great resource if you don't want to invest in actual hard copy facsimiles, and they happen to have a copy of this one in the original Italian. This is an era when dance manuals become extremely codified and almost overly detailed. So it's a big contrast for those who've been in my 15th century classes, where there's lots of vagueness and many details are left unsaid because that's not the purpose of dance manuals in that era. But by now in 1580, the date of publication of this source, Il Ballerino, the source is almost so detailed that it's off-putting sometimes because you really feel like you're just being bossed around a little bit. But for that, Messer Carosso does provide us with some very interesting behavioral etiquette, details of etiquette, and not just on the dance floor. So he actually talks about things like how a gentleman should wear his cape, how a lady should groom herself. So I thought, to put us in the right mood for today's style of dancing, I would read a little excerpt on how gentlemen should comport themselves at a ball. And he's got, of course, separate rules for ladies and men, and yes, there are more rules for ladies than there are for men. Yeah. Okay, so this work is presented, as many of the other manuals that we've discussed before, in a dialogue fashion. So you have the master and you have the pupil. And the pupil says, "Master, will you not give me some instructions on the conduct of a gentleman at a ball?" And of course, his very generous master says, "Of course I will, although from what I have already said here, everyone may learn how to pay court and what etiquette is fashionable and required at a ball. So let me just say that when a prince or a gentleman who has come to a ball is invited to dance by a lady," notice ladies invite to dance, "it is improper for anyone else to take his seat. And should you do so, it would be reasonable to return it with good grace when he has stopped dancing. And if out of excessive modesty he desires you not to rise, pretend at least to do so in order to return his seat to him, as is your duty. If the aforementioned seat is a stool, and the other will not consent to your rising, then offer him half of it, so that he will not be constrained to remain standing. Now, by doing this, in addition to being praised and loved by all, you will have acted as befits a well-bred gentleman, and have given no cause for picking a quarrel, though often enough one may see the contrary come to pass, for the company has gathered to be gay." So I think it's fascinating that he devotes a whole paragraph of an expensive printed book to how to not take someone else's seat. That's what I mean by sometimes it is overly detailed. But an interesting hidden nugget in there is that ladies should be also the ones inviting princes and or gentlemen to dance. Note, in a social setting, ladies, you must be the bold ones. In fact, in my experience, I always have to be the bold ones. Unless it's my husband, he will actually ask me to dance. But otherwise, I'm rarely asked to dance at a ball. I have to do the asking. I guess it's because I'm intimidating. I don't know. So with that kind of level of detail in mind, and we'll discuss a couple of other of these little nuggets of over detail in a bit. So this is a much more formal style of dancing than, say, our brawls. probably on the same level as formality as our allemans were, but we're going to get into some more complexity. So I'm going to start by playing the music so you can hear the music. It's an adorable little tune for the dance we're going to be learning. It's got this nice 6/8. Okay. So the song, the music, and the dance are verse, chorus, in format. So this is also something new for us. And it's not something new musically because there are verse, chorus dances from the 15th century even, and verse, chorus songs, but not as common. But now as the 16th century wears on, the verse, chorus format becomes increasingly popular in popular tunes and in songs. And so that starts showing up more and more in dancing, which in a certain way makes the dancing easier to learn if the chorus is the same every time. And in this dance, it mostly is the same every time, mostly. So you notice the music was really chipper and sort of sprightly and bouncy. It's this lovely light 6/8. This is a dance form called a cascarda. And as far as we can tell, it's only Caroso who refers to this dance genre, even though other dance masters have dances in similar meter and similar style. But he's the only one who calls them a cascarda. And it refers to the lightness and gaiety of the music, and sometimes to the steps. But in this dance, we're actually frequently going to be dancing over 2 bars of music at a time, which will slow down the speed of your steps most of the time. So let's go ahead and get started with our basic 16th century Italian footwork. So a very, very important step is not so much a step as a movement. And it's called a continenza. And yes, there are continenze in the 15th century. These are slightly different. They actually are longer. They take 1 bar of music each, or in some cases 2 bars of music. In this dance, 2 bars of music. So we put our weight on our right foot, and we're going to shift. We're going to actually make a slight step, not a big step, mind you, but a small step over to the left, and we're actually going to sink down. So we're actually going to bend our knees to lower ourselves a little bit, and then rise up again, bringing our right foot to approach. So that'll look like this from the back. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, in terms of the tempo of the music. And I am going to close, but leave my weight firmly on that left foot. So it's more of a gather. So 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3. You can rest your weight on that right foot, the foot that approached, but do not close your feet. Okay. And then we can do that going to the right. 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3. So there's this little raising and lowering at the end of that. 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3. My love, you're going to come learn? I've unfortunately not had time. You're going to come learn? Okay. Okay. I have not had time to teach my beloved husband this dance. I apologize. So there will be no demonstration of 2 people doing it. But I will demonstrate the opening section once we get through the footwork by myself. So these continenze, generally, they come in pairs, just as in the 15th century. Just they take longer, and there's different styling for those of you who are familiar with the 15th century genre. So weight is in our right foot, our left foot is free. Let's go ahead and try continenza left and continenza right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So think of it in terms of sideways, raise lower, sideways, raise lower, in terms of the timing. Okay. Weight is on our right foot, left foot is free. Let's try that again. And 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3. Questions about the continenze? Let's just do a couple of sets back to back to back to get that into your muscle memory. This step does come up quite a lot. So weight is on your right foot, left foot is free. Ready, and 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3. So it's kind of sexy little shifting steps. And because my skirts are actually up and getting more of a kind of flow than they would if they were on the ground, you can actually sort of see the effect that this little sideways raising and lowering motion has. It causes my skirts to kind of sway in this cute little fashion, right? And that reflects somewhat the kind of the farthingale farthingale supported skirts that ladies in this era would have been wearing. Right? And actually, Messer Caroso has some things to say about that and what you should do with your skirts. We'll get to that later. Like I said, he goes into extreme detail. This man, he had an eye for detail. So those are called continenze. Continenza is the singular, because specifically the word continent in English, and some of you have heard this little bit of etymology, but if you haven't, here you go. Continent in English, they were called continents. These land masses were called continents because they were thought erroneously not to move. And that is what the word continent means, unmoving. And in Italian as well of this era, continenza is a step that doesn't really travel, right? You'll notice my feet aren't going very far. I'm not taking big steps. And in fact, it is this dance master who says, if you make steps that are overly large, you will look as though you are pissing upon yourself. And he chose that verb, not urinate or pee or something gentler or more scientific. He chose the more expressive word, you will look as though you are pissing on yourself if your steps are overly large, right? So that is why it is called a continenza, because it should not really travel very far. My feet are traveling at most maybe, I don't know, a third of a meter. Yeah, a third of a meter, so a foot in imperial measurements at most. Very small, relatively small steps. So that's the continenza in this period. Now let's talk about the riverenza, the reverence, the obeisance, the honor. This is also different from the 15th century and from the earlier part of the 16th century when we were still doing this sort of thing. It has more of a role to it, shall we say, and there's more formality to it. So I'll demonstrate from the side. So weight is on my right foot, my left foot is free. I take my left foot slightly forward. Actually, this is part of it. 1, bring it back for 2, lower myself for 3, and come up for 4. And you'll notice that in doing so, I'm creating this very elliptical motion with my body. And that's intentional. This is an era when geometry really becomes prevalent in dance, both in the floor patterns and in the movements of the bodies and the feet. Okay, so full out, all 4 counts. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, let's try that together. Weight is on our right foot, our left foot is free. Ready, and 1, 2, 3, 4. And I do believe that Caroso does mention that you should only lower yourself to a point from which you can recover, which I know that sounds like it should be common sense, and yet. Yes, it's basically the same for men and women. Now women, although Caroso does say that the women can cheat because their feet are not visible. So for people with bad knees, you can cheat because hypothetically you should not be able to see my feet, right? My skirts would go all the way to the ground, and in Italy in this era, I'd have a train also. So no matter what I did actually with my feet, because my motion should be small enough to stay under my skirts, you wouldn't be able to see my feet. So hypothetically, I can go 1, 2, 3, 4. And Caroso actually mentions that as a thing that ladies can do. So if you're having knee issues, feel free to just go 1, with a slight forward of your body to sort of imply that something's happening. 1, 2, 3, 4. And he specifically mentioned somewhere in there that this is what infirm ladies can do. They're so judgmental and so labeling in the 16th century, but different era. It can be, I can just look back at it with amusement, honestly. But if you have decent knees and decent ankles, then you can just do the full riverenza. I don't remember if Caroso says anything about hats, but if you have a hat, I'm pretty certain he does. With your left hand, if you're a gentleman, you take your hat off and you put it back on your head again by the time you have finished your riverenza. So it becomes this sort of series of geometric figures, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go ahead and all practice, because you never know. You might want to dress as a gentleman, ladies, and you might want to doff your cap to your partner, right? So let's all practice that. And we're going with a fedora because he doesn't actually have proper 16th century headwear. But it works as something. If you have a hat of some sort that's grabbable, go ahead and grab it. Let's put our weight on our right foot. Our left foot is free. And we're going to stick first. We will bring our hand to our cap as we stick our left foot forward. We will raise it as we lower ourselves, bringing our arm back, and then up in a graceful manner, replacing it upon our head. And Arena, the source from the gentleman from last week, he notes that if you use 3 fingers, by which I think he means middle finger, pointer finger, and thumb, then you will not stick your fingers in your eye. I'm not certain in what world that would be a problem, but I guess it was in his because he mentions it. I guess. Yeah, you're nervous because of all the pretty ladies, so that you minimize damage to your eye, only use a few fingers. Oh, these funny thoughts I have. So weight is on our right foot. Let's try that hat doffing, everyone, again. So ready, and 1, 2, 3, 4. And there's no specificity, nowhere have I seen specified anywhere, whether you just take it off in front and bring it back in front like that, or if you take it off and you bring it around in this really nice circular fashion. So I would say you could do either, honestly, because the clothing of the era would allow for either, and both look graceful and interesting. So take your pick, whether you want to just take your cap off and bring it back up like that, or if you want to bring it around the back, your choice. Are there questions about the Riverenza in Il Ballerino in this era? Okay, so let's combine our Riverenza with these Continenze. Right? So the figure is going to be Riverenza, that nice slow one, so the 4 bars of music version, and then Continenza left, 1, 2, 3, 4, and Continenza right, 2, 3, 4. So, and if you have a partner, this is crazy, if you have a partner, and I do, I luck out, you should have the social V. So we're not looking straight ahead. We're not looking straight at each other. We're in the middle. Our bodies are creating this oblique right angle. We're each half of the right angle. So we're slightly facing each other from the side. That would look like this. We're slightly facing each other, but we're also forward enough that we could easily dance forward. Right? And this is a figure that seems to be mentioned pretty early on in the French sources, actually in the 15th century, that you incline yourself towards your partner during the Riverenza. So let's go ahead and try Riverenza, Continenza. Weight is on our right foot, left foot is free. Ready, and Riverenza. No, circular motion, remember?
Oh, I thought you said we could do it.
No, with your body. Remember elliptical motion with your body. Right, like that. It's not straight down and straight up like in the 15th century. It's this elliptical motion, right?
I did that on purpose so she could explain it.
He's my capriole.
Yes.
He always asks. He always does the right, wrong things. Okay. So weight is on our right foot, left foot is free. Ready, and Riverenza, Continenza, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And remember, on the Continenza, you really want to bend your knees a little bit, not too low, like we're not squatting, right? But just a little bend so that you can create this U sort of formation, right? So you can really create that nice, sexy sway. So just a little bend to your knees so that you kind of wind yourself up as a spring, gentle, elegant, slow spring for the end of the Continenza. Okay, let's try that again. I don't know what, you should just keep on the fedora. You're going to need it. Yeah, okay. So from the Riverenza, weight is on our right foot, left foot is free. Ready, and 1, 2, 3, 4. Continenza, down, yeah. Yeah, it's a little different. It's very different from the 15th century Continenza. One, it takes twice the amount of time or more, but it also starts, instead of starting on an up, it starts on this down and up. right? So you've got this 1, 2, 3, 2, right? You've got this cute little sort of U figure, except it takes 2 bars of music. So 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3. Okay, let's try that one more time. Weight is on our right foot, left foot is free, ready, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Questions before we try it to the actual music? Okay, then actual music it is. And let me just check. I think there's a brief intro on this version. There is not, and that's okay. So the reason it's okay that there is no introduction is because we actually, and there's a theory that this is intentional, because you actually lead off with this really slow reverenza anyway. So if you don't catch the first beat, that's okay. You've got plenty of time to fall into the rest of the reverenza. So that means the first little twiddle of I think that's the recorder. The first twiddle of the recorder, you actually start immediately with the foot forward, back, and falling into your reverenza. Okay, so no intro. Immediate riverenza. Continenza, left, 2, 3, 4, right, 2, 3, 4. Let's try that again. Okay, ready? 2, 3, 4, up, 2, 3, 4. Left, right. Okay. You want to we have a visitor at our doors, which is not normal. Okay, so are there questions about the Riverenza Continenza? Okay, there's seeming to be no questions. Then let us move on with both our footwork and the dance. So actually, we've just danced the introduction of the dance, and this is an extremely, apparently it was a package. We get packages on Sunday here, I guess. So that is an extremely common opening for dances in Italy in the late 16th century, is that Riverenza, Continenza, Continenza. So if you don't remember the rest of the dance, you can probably at least fake the very beginning by just doing that. Okay, so moving onward with our footwork. Of course, we do have, you'll notice there's not much new. There's just sort of variations on themes. So we have reverenza, reverence, obeisance, kind of, they're in all the dance forms. They have different nuances, different timings maybe, but same idea, lowering yourself and raising yourself. Then we have this continenza. We've got this, this sideways step that is just singular in nature, and that is faster or slower, but still the idea being you move sideways with a swaying sort of motion, right? And that also you have in the English dances, you have set, for example, is the step there. So we also have singles, sempi, as they are called, or passi in this genre. So in the earlier dances, in the earlier dances, what we're about to do is often called a sempio, but that was actually shorthand in the 15th century for passo sempio, which literally means single or simple step. And in the 15th century, that got shortened to sempio, mostly, sometimes passo, but mostly sempio. But then, interestingly, by the second half of the 16th century, its shorthand is actually usually passo, step. So it's funny how language evolves that way. Either way, these are just normal walking steps. And in this tempo, and particularly in this dance, Villanella, this cascarda, we're actually going to 1 sempio equals 1 bar of that music. 1, 2, 3. Think of it in that kind of syncopation. So let's just walk single steps slowly at first at that tempo. So the tempo will be da 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 da. And for each of those da da das, you're stepping a single step. So weight is on our right foot, our left foot is free. Ready, and da 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 da. Now let's come up on the balls of our feet. Da da da. Da 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 da. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now let's add some raise lower. Da 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 da. So you're definitely still on the balls of your feet or the front half of your feet. Da 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 da. Now, unlike the 15th century, there is no shoulder shading here. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Da 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 da. Okay, so those are our passi, as they're called. Are there questions about passi, the step? Okay, seeming to be no questions. There are also doppii in this genre, doubles, right? And there's a whole, and when I say there are doppii, I mean there's a lot of different kinds of doppii. They do all kinds of things. They start getting extremely elaborate with what you can do to doppii. But what I like about this dance, this little cascarda, which is called Villanella, by the way, I don't think I ever mentioned that. We'll get there. What I like about this dance is that its footwork is relatively simple, so it makes a fun, good introduction to the genre. And if you decide you want to do crazier things, there are many options for that. But in this one, the footwork stays relatively unornamented. So doppii in this dance are also 3 steps and a pause. Step, 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 pause. And we'll be doing 1 doppio over 2 bars of music. So if you know the dance Petit Rien from the 15th century, same idea, same idea. So the music will go da 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 da, and that's 1 doppio, 1 double. That looks like this. Weight is on my right foot, left foot is free. Da 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 da. So it's step, 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 pause. And as in the past, you don't close your steps unless indicated specifically otherwise. Step, 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 pause. Let's go ahead and just try doppii walking around the room. The first one will be on the left, the second will be on the right, left, right, left, right. Always alternating left, right. It's just a question of the timing, right? So 4 for nothing. 4, 3, 2, 1. Left, 2, 3, pause, right, 2, 3, pause. Left, 2, 3, pause, right, 2, 3, pause. Left, 2, 3, pause, right, 2, 3, pause. Left, 2, 3, pause, right, 2, 3, pause, left, 2, 3, pause, right, 2, 3, pause, left, 2, 3, pause, right, 2, 3, pause. Okay, are there questions about the doubles, the doppii? Okay, so you may have noticed that I was adding raising and lowering, just like through the passi, the singles. I was also adding that raising and lowering through the doppii. So it's up, up, lower, up, up, lower, up, up, lower, up, up, lower. So we'll do that again, and actually I'm going to put the music on. And if you are comfortable adding that up, up, lower, then do so. If you're not quite there yet, that's okay. You can really just do doppii at 1 level, and that's okay. So up, up, lower, up, up, lower. We'll do it actually with the music to get you accustomed to moving to this music. Start the music. Okay, so weight is in our right foot, left foot is free. Ready, and left, 2, 3, and right, 2, 3. Left, 2, 3, right, 2, 3. Left, 2, 3, 4, right, 2, 3. Left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. Questions about doubles, doppii at full speed. That is the full speed they will go in this dance. Okay, there's seeming to be no questions. If you do have a question, go ahead and chime in at any time, of course. Let's go ahead and combine those passi, those singles, with the doppii, with the doubles. So we're going to do, the sequence is going to be 2 singles and a double, 2 singles and a double. My love? Yes. So 2 singles and a double, 2 singles and a double. Just walking around your space. Okay, weight is on your right foot, left foot is free, and we'll do it to the music. So the idea is I want you to get accustomed to the difference in quick and slow and whatnot. So weight is on your right foot. And single, single, double, 2, 3, and single, single, double, 2, 3, and single, single, double, 2, 3, and single, single, double. Keep going. Okay. Did you lose it? Well, luckily, you will never do that many of that sequence in a row. So if you lost it halfway through, it's okay. That was just a drill, literally. Questions about the Passi, singles, or the Doppii, the doubles, and therefore in combination. Very well. Let's go ahead and start building our dance then. There is another step, but we will learn that next week because it's at the end of the dance and we don't need to overpower ourselves this early on. It's called a spezzato, seguito spezzato. My love? So I did mention that the music is verse and chorus. And briefly, I'll recap in case you didn't read the description for the class. Today's dance is called Villanella. And Villanella literally means the country maid. And so it aligns with, if you listen to the music does feel, it has this very pittoresco, what is that in English? Probably, I think I've actually heard that word used in English. But it's this, in the late 16th century, there was this whole fantasy about what country life was like for the peasants, like the middle class and the upper middle class, the bourgeois and the aristocracy had this bizarre fascination with country life, and they imagined it to be much more idyllic than it actually was, of course. And so there were a whole suite of dances. There were bunches of dances and music that were composed to the country squire or the country maid sort of thing. And that's what this dance is part of that imagining, in musically speaking. The dance doesn't reflect any kind of country dance practices at all. I'm confident of it. But it's more an issue of the music, and it could be, and possibly there is actually a song. I bet there's a song, and I just haven't taken the time to look for this one. I'll bet that this is based on a popular tune about a country maid, and that's why it's called that. But the music also in that cascada tempo, that light, happy 6/8, is very much associated with the country life. And in fact, all the way from the early 15th century, when they talked about that 6/8 tune being the sad step done by the villagers in the country. No judgment. So let's learn the chorus first. Because that's a thing that will repeat throughout the dance, and so it's good to actually have it in your head. But to learn the chorus, we actually need to learn another little step that I forgot we hadn't covered yet. I apologize. I haven't actually taught this dance in like 15 years. I've danced it, but I haven't actually taught it. So it's been a while, and I forgot that we should include the riprese in the opening footwork drills. Okay, so we talked about the Continenza, and that was that slow step, right? It's a very slow step, relatively speaking. The riprese, we have riprese in this period. For those who are familiar with 15th century dance, that's sideways steps, and some of us, including me, reconstruct them in the 15th century as a double. But in the 16th century, they seem to be little single steps that have a little hoppy kind of nature to them. And they tend to come in pairs in one direction or the other. So a riprese to the left, if you put your weight on your right foot and your left foot is free, riprese to the left would look like this, just one of them. 1, 2. Right? And if you're going to continue moving to the left, that actually means you have to close at the end and shift your weight. Left, right. So intentionally, I'm intentionally closing my weight when I know that I have a series of riprese going in a direction. And in this dance, they do come in pairs, mostly to the right. Now, again, the dance master mentions about looking incontinent if you take overly large steps. So do not do what my beloved husband just did. These are tiny little steps. They don't actually have lots of time because you do one riprese per bar of music. So it ends up being a kind of chipper little sort of step. So let's put our weight on our left foot so our right foot is free. And we're actually going to do 2 riprese to the right. So that'll look like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. And at the end, I do not close. I gather my left foot because I know something else is going to come with my left foot. And in this dance, that's always the case. We do 2 riprese to the right, and the second one we do not close because we know we're going to do something with our left foot, which is a riverenza, actually. So let's put our weight on our left foot, and let's try these 2 cute little wicket-like riprese. They remind me of little like croquet wickets, like you're making little croquet wickets with your feet, sort of thing. Okay. So weight is on your left foot, right foot is free. Ready, and 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3. Okay, let's try that to the left just for balance. Your left foot is already free. Ready, and 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3. Okay, questions about the riprese in this era? Yeah, they're fun. They're cute. They're cute little steps, and especially with this music, because the music goes da 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 da. Right, you've got this really chipper, and so the music goes da 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 da. Yeah, right. Da 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 da. So it's got all this da da da's to it. So let's go ahead and build that into our chorus in any case. So ideally, you're standing with a ghost partner. Decide now if you're the leader or the follower, the left or the right. And my ghost is definitely the leader because he's on the left. Left equals lead. Geography determines power, apparently, in all things. So chorus, we're actually going to start with our weight on our right foot. Our left foot is free. And we're going to commence with a Continenza to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to do 2 riprese to the right. Riprese, riprese. And then a riverenza slightly facing our partner. 1, 2, 3, 4.
That does not go on well.
No, I think you need to stick to the fedora. The 15th century, the cheater 15th century hat does not work well. That barrette is not meant for that. Okay, so let's try that whole chorus. Recap, it was Continenza left, 2 riprese to the right, and that nice, elegant, slow riverenza. Okay. Right foot is weighted, left foot is free. Ready, and Continenza, riprese, riprese, riverenza. So remember, on the riverenza, especially for my people who are who've been doing lots of 15th century, the first count is your toe going forward. 1, 2, 3, 4. So forward, back, down, up. And as much as your muscles allow and your knees allow, try to make that down and up very elliptical. Right? No, it won't. It will make your brain stronger. Okay, and remember, dance posture lined up, neck and spine aligned. Weight is on our right foot, left foot is free. Let's try that chorus again. Ready, and Continenza, riprese, riprese, riverenza. Now that is the chorus. The song, this version of the song anyway, this dance, has 5 verses, and therefore that chorus is performed 5 times. That chorus only has a slight change for the first verse. And that's because the first verse actually opens with that reverenza, right? So it seems kind of silly to do another reverenza at the end by 16th century mindset. So that means the first time we do the chorus, after the first verse, no reverenza. But it's not, there's no music for it. You don't have to guess because the verse starts, the music starts again with verse 2. And if you're still doing the reverenza that's supposed to go with the music in the chorus, there's no chorus music for it. Right? So in this dance, there is much more of a correlation between music and step, music and choreography. That's another thing that starts happening at the end of the second half of the 16th century. Increasing correlation between choreography and music. Okay, so let's try that chorus, the regular chorus, and then we'll do a practice run with no riverenza. So weight is in our right foot, left foot is free. Ready, and Continenza, riprese, riprese, Riverenza. Remember to stick your toe forward on the one. Okay, now let's practice verse 1 chorus, which has no riverenza at the end. So just don't do the riverenza, okay? Ready, and Continenza, riprese, riprese. And then we start the next verse. Okay, questions about the chorus? I know it might seem a little confusing now. Once you actually do it in the context of the dance, it will make more sense. There being no questions, then let's actually learn the full first verse of the dance. So we've actually learned the introduction. My love, where are you? So we've actually learned the first, the opening part of verse 1, and that was the Riverenza Continenza. That is actually part of the verse. It's not extra music for that. It is built into the verse. Unlike Basse Danse, where that's sometimes outside of the music. It's not in this case. So let's go ahead and just get ourselves in the right mindset. Do the opening of the verse. 16th century Riverenza. 16th century Riverenza. Okay, so Riverenza and then Continenza. Ready, and Riverenza, Continenza, Continenza. And at the end of that, weight should still be firmly on your right foot, so your left foot should still be free. Okay, remember I said gather your feet, but don't close your feet at the end of your Continenza so that you know what foot comes next. And then the rest of the verse is a very complicated 2 Doppii. Just 2 doubles walking forward side by side with your partner. So weight is in our right foot, left foot is free, and double 2, 3, and double 2, 3. And then we do our shortened chorus, which is the Continenza left. Continenza, riprese, riprese. And that's all of verse 1 and all of chorus 1. So that's all of section 1 in its entirety. Let's go ahead and try that all together, and then I will take any questions that may have arisen. So starting with our riprese, excuse me, I was checking my mic to make sure it was still on. Starting with our Riverenza Continenza. Okay, weight is on our right foot, left foot is free. Ready, and Riverenza, Continenza, Continenza. Double 2, 3, 4, double 2, 3, 4. Continenza, riprese, riprese. Nope, that's it. No Riverenza that time around. Okay, questions before we do all of that to the actual music? Okay, there's seeming to be no questions. So once again, no intro to the music. It commences right on the Riverenza. Okay. Continenza, 2 doubles. Continenza, riprese. And you see how the music gives it, the riprese, this little light, not bouncing. Bouncing is too strong a word. It gives it a lighter, springy quality. Okay, let's try that again from the top, from the very top. So again, no intro. Okay. I will be dancing on my own for this round, starting with the Riverenza. Continenza, Continenza, double, semi-chorus, riprese. Okay, questions about first section, first verse, first chorus? Okay, then moving onward. So we're now on to section 2, and we have 2 singles and a double, 2 singles and a double. We rehearsed that during the drills. So that is actually the footwork for the next 3 sections of the dance. So that's another nice thing about Villanella is that there isn't a lot of variety in footwork sequences either. So for 3 whole verses of the dance, we get the same footwork, but just different patterns. So that's another reason I like this dance as an introduction to this genre as well, because there's patterns that repeat musically, choreographically, and I think that's a really good thing for getting addicted to these sorts of dances. So to recap, for verses 2, 3, and 4, 2, 3, nope, that doesn't work. 2, 3, and 4, we have 2 singles and a double, 2 singles and a double. So that means the first set will start with the left, the second set will start with the right foot. So let's go ahead and just practice that, just walking about your space, and we'll talk about the geography in a moment and what's happening. Weight is on your right foot, left foot is free. Ready, and single, single, double, 2, 3, 4, single, single, double, 2, 3, 4. So that's the footwork. Now, imagine you are standing next to your partner. This figure I call crescent switching because you're actually going to be walking a crescent with that footwork in front of your partner, ending to their other side. So whoever's on the left, the leader, because they're on the left, leads this figure. So for the first part, it's the gentleman in the original version, 2 singles and a double, 2 singles and a double, and the last step of the last double is a mezavolta, is a half turn. So that's something we haven't really drilled much yet. We haven't had much purpose to do so. So let's take a moment to practice doing a proper half turn, a nice elegant half turn. So put your weight on your right foot. This is what we're going to do. We're going to step onto our left foot. We're going to gather and pivot, keeping our weight entirely on the foot that's stepped. You can, however, use the toes of your foot to kind of counterbalance if you need to, sort of like a cane, but you do not want to close, because if you close your feet, then you have to think about what comes next, which foot should lead, and that does matter in this dance. And by the time you've thought about it, it's too late. The music has moved on, and probably your partner as well. So the drill is going to be step, gather, pivot. Let's start with the left foot. So right foot has weight, left foot is free. Ready, and step, gather, pivot. Okay, everyone check to make sure that your weight is on your left foot, your right foot is free. Okay. So now let's step, gather, pivot with the right foot. Ready, and step, gather, pivot. So you'll notice we're always pivoting forward with our face forward, right? We're continuing with the momentum that we've already created. We're not stepping, we're going this way and then suddenly reversing direction. That's not the way to execute a nice half turn. Okay, so let's just drill that a little bit. So the drill is going to be step, gather, pivot, step, gather, pivot, and that's at that speed. And I want you to really focus on keeping yourself nice and upright. Right, we're using our core muscles here. And for those who haven't yet done one of my footwork drills classes, this is exactly the kind of stuff we drill in those classes. So if you want to do more of this, every Wednesday night, currently, the date might change, we do this kind of stuff. And Decimus has highly enjoyed the abuse through which I put his body, haven't you, Decimus? Yes, he has. He's somewhere there. Okay, so weight is on our right foot, left foot is free. Step, turn drills, ready, and step, gather, pivot. 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 Step, gather, pivot, step, gather, pivot, step, gather, pivot, step, gather, pivot. Okay, if that felt awkward, that's okay. For those of you who haven't done this very much, that drill should have felt a little awkward. And the reason that's okay is because that awkwardness means you're growing. There is no growth without suffering and pain. Welcome to the Contessa's School of Philosophy. So if that felt awkward, that's fine. It will get easier when we actually build that onto the end of a double, which we're about to do. Because outside of Argentine tango, I know of no dance where you do this exact figure, right? That doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I just don't know of one. But in the 15th and 16th century, I've never seen a dance that did that figure eight thing. That is specifically to drill and force your body to build new ways of balancing. So let's go ahead and build that onto the end of a doppio, of a double, and specifically a doppio leading with the right foot. So I will demonstrate how that will look. Weight is on my left foot, my right foot is free. And I'm going to go step, 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 gather, pivot. Obviously, because it's in time to this specific music, you have way less time, half the time really, than in that little slow figure eight drill we just did. So the timing is going to be step, 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 gather, pivot. Okay, let's go ahead and try that. Weight is on our left foot, our right foot is free. Ready, and step, 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 gather, pivot. Let's try it with the left foot since our left foot is now free, or should be. If your left foot is not free, make it so. Okay. Ready, and step, 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 gather, pivot. Okay. Are there questions about step, gather, pivot before we build it a little more onto that to keep practicing it? Okay, so let's go ahead and do just first in a straight-ish line for whatever space you have. If you're circular, if you have space to do it around your space circularly, that's fine. The drill is going to be 2 singles and a double, 2 singles and a double, and the second double has that step, gather, pivot. Okay, so 2 singles and a double, 2 singles and a double, step, gather, pivot. So weight is on our right foot, our left foot is free. Ready, and single, single, double, 2, 3, 4, single, single, double, 2, 3, pivot. Okay, now foot check. At the end of that, everyone's left foot should be free. Let's go ahead and we're going to drill that back to back to back, and we're going to do it with the music. Again, this is a drill thing. This is exactly the kind of thing we do in our drills classes. So if you're enjoying this sort of torturous abuse, then feel free to sign up for those as well. Okay, so 2 singles and a double, 2 singles and a double, pivot, back to back to back. Ready, and single, single, double, 2, 3, and single, single, double, 2, 3, pivot, single, single, double, 2, 3, and single, single, double, 2, 3, pivot, single, single, double, 2, 3, and single, single, double, 2, 3, pivot, single, single, double, 2, 3, and single, single, double, 2, 3, pivot, single, single, double, 2, 3, and single, single, double, 2, 3, pivot. One more time. Okay. So to emphasize, that was a drill. That is not how the dance is done. That was just to practice the 2 singles and a double, 2 singles and a double with the pivot. Are there questions about that? Now, if that step pivot was giving you mental issues, especially if you're mental issues, I'm sorry, if it was challenging your feet, mental issues, not a good thing to say. If it was challenging your feet, then obviously, especially if you're a more beginner dancer, do whatever you need to do a half turn, and that will be ultimately fine, as long as you don't run into anyone while doing it. Okay, so I'm going to ask my partner to come out. So I have a frame of reference for this figure. So as I mentioned way, way long ago, the second verse is crescents, and I called it crescent switching. So let's do it facing this way so they can see what's happening. So we're going, the leader, just the leader, the followers will stay still, is going to do the 2 singles and a double, 2 singles and a double to end up on the follower's right side. And that's why you need to do that pivot, that half turn, that mezavolta, so that the leader ends up facing the same direction as their follower. So it would look like this. So he goes single, single, double, 2, 3, and single, single. So first off, you actually do have to go out pretty far. Yeah, 2 singles and a double, and you actually have to go out pretty far. So this is a very flirtatious sort of yo-yo figure where, he's like walking away, oh no, he's coming back, right? Okay, so 2 singles and a double, looks like this. Single, single, double, 2, 3, and single, single, double, 2, 3, pivot, and that time you'll figure out the distance you need once you do it once. That was pretty close. You just had to stretch those a little bit, and it was less parabolic and more, I forget what kind of function that is when it makes a point and bounces back up again. But okay, so dance posture, everyone, shoulders back, neck aligned. Now let's go ahead, even though verse 2 is just the gentleman moving, so these are solos. Verse 3, the followers are going to do the same thing. So let's go ahead and just have the followers work just the verse part to get the footwork and the geography down. So followers, weight is on your right foot, your left foot is free. Ready, and single, single, double, 2, 3, and single, single, double, 2, 3, pivot. And let's go ahead, we'll demonstrate that facing the Narcissus wall so that you can see how this figure looks from this dimension. So he'll do his first and then I'll do mine. So he goes, yes, this figure does migrate, so move as far left as you can. So he goes like this, single, single, double, 2, 3, and single, single, double, 2, 3, and then there's some chorus. But then I'm now the new leader for the moment because I'm on the left, right? Follower gets the same thing. So the follower goes da 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 da. Are there questions about crescents before we build it in with chorus action as well? Okay, there's seeming to be no questions. So we'll do verse 2 and 3 because it's like I said, they're basically the same thing, just different actor. So verse 2 is whoever's on the left is the leader. And then verse 3, whoever's on the left is the leader, the one actually doing the verse. So verse 2 and 3 are switching crescents. That's how I shorthand this dance in my head. Footwork is 2-1-2-1. So let's go ahead and try that. And then we go into the chorus after the first crescent. So after the first crescent, remember the chorus was Continenza left, riprese, riprese, and Riverenza. So let's go ahead and try that. So leaders ready, and single, single, double, 2, 3, and single, single, double, 2, 3, and Continenza, riprese, riprese, Riverenza. Followers, da 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 da. Riverenza, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Can I get the 15th century Riverenza out of my head?
Yeah, you can. I'll just beat it out of you. Okay, were there questions about verses 2 and 3? Okay, then let's go ahead and
Kind of
try.
confused
Oh, yes,
about,
question, go on.
about when you do the Riverenza and when you do not do the Riverenza.
So,
Since
good
you said-
question. So the only time we don't do the Riverenza at the end of the chorus is verse 1.
Oh,
Only verse 1, and that's because there's literally no music for it because we did the Riverenza at the beginning. Right, good question, thank you. Yeah, so let me clarify once more for everyone. We only do the truncated chorus, meaning sans Riverenza, without Riverenza, at the end of verse 1. And that's because, logically, we started the verse with the opening Riverenza that is just built into pretty much all of these balletti, as they're called. Yeah, all these cascate. Okay, so let's go ahead and do, oh, wow, it's already been an hour. Okay, where did the time go? Let's go ahead and do the whole dance through to that point then, all the way from the beginning. Okay, so we're going to start with the Riverenza and the Continenza, typical opening for this era. And then we have our 2 Doppii verse, ending with the truncated chorus, because we already did a Riverenza at the beginning there. And then we have switching crescents for verses 2 and 3. Okay, switching crescents. So remember 16th century Riverenza. Lead with your toe, your left toe. Go. Continenza. And right. Doubles. Truncated chorus, Continenza and riprese. Crescents, singles and doubles. Double, 2, 3, and single, single, double, 2, 3, chorus. 1, 2, 3. Riprese, Riverenza. Followers, singles and doubles. Again. Chorus. Riprese, Riverenza. Okay, very nice. Okay, let's do that one more time. Yes, exactly why we need to do it again. One more time. Are there questions before we do so? Okay. From the Riverenza. Continenza left, right, doubles, Continenza, and the little riprese. Verse, single, double, single, single, double, chorus, riprese, Riverenza. Followers, crescents. Chorus. Riprese, Riverenza. Yeah, I don't know why you did that. So just to be clear, just because there was some bouncing happening on my end, the riprese do not bounce in this dance. It's just little da-da-da, da-da-da, right? Okay, well that gets us actually exactly where I wanted to end today, the midway point for this dance. Are there any questions? Okay, well, there being no questions, I will, of course, send out the recording. And then next week, we will finish Villanella and, of course, have some more charming glimpses into the world that surrounds this dance. So then I thank everyone for a lovely morning, afternoon, evening. And you have a lovely rest of whatever your day is. Bye, everyone.